right, taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford SuperDuty. Now, the SuperDuty does technically have two different screens that are available. So it's either going to be a traditional analog cluster screen or this fully digital one instead, which, I mean, come on, that looks really, really nice. But we're going to dive in, learn everything we need to know about all the different steering wheel buttons and things like that. Starting off with the wheel itself. So inside of the XL, the XLT, this wheel doesn't have the option for heated, but we do have the flexibility of getting heated steering wheel inside of the Lariat and above. So do have that available as an option. Inside of the XL, XLT, etc., manual telescoping, so by our left knee, so we can go in, out, up and down, create that perfect position, and then all we're gonna do, click, log it back into place. Now, let's dive through all the buttons. This one has just regular cruise control, so you can see that button along the left-hand side. In order to turn it on, we can set and then either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. This thing does have the option for the intelligent adaptive cruise control, and that would look slightly different. It would also have a distance indicator, so we could figure out how close or far away we want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of us. So that is available there as an option. Now we've also got our mute button here, and that obviously would go away if we had the adaptive cruise control system. Along the bottom, we've got the flexibility of either increasing or decreasing our audio there. And then we've got a voice command prompt. So we'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, we could navigate using our voice. And then if we were hooked up through Android or iPhone devices, we could also do a longer press and hold if we wanted to activate either our Siri or our Google Assistant. So if you are hooked up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay through the media screen, press and hold longer in order to activate Siri or Google. But if you want to walk through on how to use that screen, check down in the description of the video. I've put together a comprehensive walkthrough explaining how everything works. Along the right-hand side, the buttons along the bottom right-hand side here are either to change songs or radio stations. So we could just do a press and hold that way. Actually, let's jump over to audio so you can kind of see what's going on. So we go left and right there in order to jump between presets. But we've also got the flexibility, so we can press and hold in order to be able to seek instead. So it's just a quick press in order to be able to move between our different presets. And then if we wanted to seek, we do a longer press and hold in order to be able to seek out that way instead. So pretty straightforward to be able to do. Honestly, I just recommend using the voice command prompt instead in order to be able to change out your songs or stations. This button is either to answer or hang up on a phone call. So we do have that flexibility. And then this is going to be to move through the cluster screen there. So we've got our basic back button, we can go up and down this way, and then we've got our OK button, and then a menu button. So we'll get to that one in just a second. We're gonna cover off the sticks here. So stick on the left-hand side is obviously gonna be for our windshield. There we go, so stick on the left-hand side is gonna be for our windshield wipers, so we can adjust along the side. We've got our blinkers, flash out our high beams, etc. Along the right side, we've got our shifter, so we can easily drop down gears as we need to. We've also got plus minus buttons there. So if we want to control what gear we're in, we could turn it into a manual mode by pushing the button on the stick, tip of the stick, and then we just go up and down in order to change gears this way instead. So if you're looking at, let's say, downshifting because you want to use engine braking instead, you've got the flexibility to do that. So rather than using the brakes, you just tap minus a few times there instead. But let's dive into the cluster screen. So I'm just going to zoom you in a tiny little bit. Let's pop you up a bit. Now, like I said, we've got two different options for this little screen. So it's either going to, well, for the screen, so it's either going to be a traditional analog or this fully digital cluster. But I mean, I love the digital. We've got our tachometer off to the left, speedometer off to the right, series of different gauges along the very top there. So we've got what's going on with different cooling temperatures and then our current fuel level along the top right-hand side there. Along the very bottom, you can see whether we're in park, reverse, neutral, drive, or M, which is going to be the manual mode. So in order to flip out into manual, we just have to drop out, and you can see there we've got a series of different gears that we're in now. If we push the button on the stick, that gives us the flexibility to move into manual mode or back into our regular drive mode instead. And then we can adjust gears out that way if we want to. Pushing the button again moves us back into our different manual drive modes, and then park again. Super straightforward. We can see what song is currently playing along the very bottom, what our current kilometers are, and then whether or not the driver is wearing their seatbelt. I'm parked, so I'm clearly not. Now let's dive through. So we've got our My View, which is going to be the base view here, which is a nice graphical interface. So we can go up and down between different counters, or between different screens, I should say. So we start off, we've got our driver assistance, moving down into a calm view. So if you don't like the busyness of the screen, we can just I like that. Switch out to this calm view instead, which just, I mean, it takes everything away. It just looks so nice. Digital speedometer off to the right, fuel off to the left. And then we can just go up and down in order to jump back into these other screens instead. Trip counter. If we ever want to reset the trip counter, all we're going to do is press and hold the OK button. So we're just going to press and hold, and you'll see that it's resetting. Boom, reset. That's straightforward. We've also got our fuel economy, tire pressure, and like any of these things. If you ever want to reset, all we're going to do is just press and hold OK. A few seconds there, and then we can configure the My View. But before we configure, I want to show you one more thing. So if we push the menu button along the right side of the steering wheel, that's going to bring up this subscreen. So we can jump back into My View. We can go into different trip counters, so whether that's 1, 2, or fuel economy. And what happens here is we're going to pop in, so we can go into either one of these. So it's essentially brought us into a subscreen, because if we hop back, we go to My View, which is everything. So it's the full summary of what we've selected, versus this gives us the flexibility of moving into individual screens. So we've got fuller gauges, so if we want just general measurements. We've got all of our diesel measurements, obviously because we're in the diesel right now. Aux gauges, our diesel gauges back up. Or we can hop into some off-road, which is going to give us our off-road status. So as we rotate the wheel, we can see what's going on with each individual wheel as we go. So we can see percentages that we're turning. One useful one, if we look at a pitch and roll, so if you're doing any sort of off-roading, same thing, we can see kind of what direction the truck is facing as we go. So it's really useful. Same idea, we can see our turning radius along the very top there too, which is kind of neat. Recenter the wheel, there we go. All right, and jumping back, let's go back to towing. So towing, we've got a series of different ones. So we've got towing information, trailer light status, and obviously all of these ones say nothing because we don't have a trailer physically connected. But this one is useful because it's going to let us know what's going on with the brake gain if we are connected. I mean, obviously with towing and things like that, you want to make sure you're using a weight distribution hitch if you're towing something heavy, but it is really straightforward using this. Like it. I like all the information that's available here too. Like, I mean, obviously we don't have a trailer connected, but if we did, we could make sure that our lights are connected and things like that as well. Moving back down, we've got basic status and info. So for seatbelts, how many people are currently in the vehicle, and then whether or not the seatbelts are connected. And as of right now, I mean, like I said, I don't have my seatbelt on. Moving back, we've got our basic engine information. So how long has it been idling for, our current oil life. If you're changing your oil yourself, same idea. Once you change, press and hold OK in order to reset that oil life back to 100% again. Navigation, we've got a series of other options. So we've got our My Home, previous destinations, and other things. So if you've set up your home address, it's going to show up there. Same idea, if you've searched destinations, you've got that flexibility. We can look at point of interest icons too. So let's say if we're looking at going to Roadhouse.
Obey traffic laws, be alert, and use voice commands while driving. Please proceed to the highlighted road.
Oh, why, thank you. So you can see along the very top, it's let us know what's going on with our current direction. So we're going to have to turn left in 20 meters. Now, if we go back to My View again, calming view, I'm curious. I'm not sure about this one. I want to find out if the... Okay, so it doesn't. So it just essentially keeps the the turn-by-turn directions up on the screen, but it's not going to show us a full map, unfortunately. But we go back into our navigation menu. We can cancel the route out. Route's canceled. If we had a phone connected, so there's no phone connected as of right now, but if we did, it would show us our contacts, so we can make phone calls and things like that very simply. Back in, we've got our audio. So we've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, so we can select any of these if we want to, and then we can easily move between different stations that way too, if we were to go left and right. We've got our vehicle maintenance, so tire pressure, useful. So this one, obviously, tiny little bit out of whack on that top, the passenger front tire there. Back out, we've got our oil life counter. Same idea, we can press to reset, our DEF information, exhaust info, and then the engine air filter. So same idea, we could reset any of these ones easily ourselves by just going to vehicle maintenance. Back to our settings again. We've got the option of selecting different gauges. So if we wanted to swap different positions, we could. And it's only the top two, or the middle two, I should say, that are going to be changeable. So the one on the left, one on the right are going to stay in place no matter what. Or we can completely remove the selectable gauges. Now, having said that, the left and right gauge, we also have the flexibility of changing these things out. Now, it's obviously the two on the outside are always going to stay the same. So it's essentially those two middle ones that are changeable. So whether we want to have the turbo boost, if we want to have the DEF fluid levels, pressure, whatever the case may be. That's the same idea for the right side. We can switch that out to whatever one we'd like. And then do we want standard versus detailed gauges? Actually, I kind of like the detailed a bit more. Yeah, I don't, honestly, I'd probably go like keep it at detailed. Just makes it a little bit easier to use. And then whether we want the speed as a little bit of a split. So we've got kilometers and miles there. Or if we just want our just traditional speed instead. Neutral tow. We're not neutrally towing the vehicle. Conditions aren't met, which is why it's saying that. But we do have the flexibility of neutral towing this thing if we want to. Moving back, we've got our My View, so let's go back there again. And I'm curious what the calming view looks like now with our little split screen there. Yeah, there we go. So you can see there, so we've got both speeds showing in our digital screen. So I mean, obviously if you were in the States, you'd just show miles and then kilometers on the top instead, but because we're in Canada, we've got that. But it's super straightforward. I really like the My View there. Just the base one, but this is super straightforward. It honestly reminds me of what's going on the F-150. But we can go up and down, and like I said, this is our My View, which is going to give us a summary of all of these base screens on this screen so we can configure what's actually showing. So we've got the driver assistance, calm view, we can do a blank screen, different trip counters, general measurements, diesel measurements, and things like that. And if we go back, anything that we add in, you can see along the side, it's also added in additional ones here. So as we move up and down, you can see this little blue thingy moving, but that's going to let us know what's going on in each one. I just added in this blank screen, so if we, okay, yeah, so it's literally, okay, that's actually really useful. So if you still want all of your different gauges, but you don't want the full calming screen, you're going blank screen instead. So I know it's quite a little bit of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the steering wheel, as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford SuperDuty.